So we got the first rear end in, the first third member I should say. Went pretty smooth. A little easier mounting them on the ground using the forklift than doing it by yourself under the truck. So we're next getting the new dowel pins ready to go in for the third members. I'm going to go ahead and start getting our shock towers mounted up on top of the housings. Just another step in the process. Alright, so it's time to get this housing put together, planetary assemblies, axle shafts, stuff like that. We already have our housings put together with the third members in them, shock mounts, steering rams kind of on, and then our knuckles and champagnes are already bolted up. So we're going to get our axle shaft put in, spindles on, spindle restraints, wheel restraints, and the hubs. So here's the axle shafts we run. These are custom hardened steel axle shafts with Dan Patrick U-joints. And then these are Dan Patrick housings, and these are custom pettibone knuckles, champagnes, and spindles with in-house wheel restraint systems. So first thing goes our axle shaft. Alright, so now that the axle shaft's in, we're going to take our spindle here, slide it over the axle shaft, and onto the studs. Now a big problem a lot of pettibone guys have is when we get these corners, these holes here actually get bolts put in them and are tapped. A long time ago, a couple guys started taking those out and putting bolts in backwards, welding them in there, creating studs. And that worked great, but the problem is now there's so much pressure on these studs that when we jump, the truck's pretty big, it shears all of them off because of how much they're moving around. So to counter that, we created a restraint for it's almost a girdle actually for the studs, which slides right over top of this and then goes into these holes, and it just helps hold the bolts tight so they don't move and loosen around and shear off. And I've been running these for about 1.5 years now, and since I have not broken a single knuckle or spindle off, so knock on wood. You're probably wondering why I'm about to put different style nuts on here, and it's because once this hub is on here and you know, we're going through and tightening everything up, we can't get a wrench, a socket, anything on these top bolts, top and bottom bolts. So to do that, you'd have to pull everything back off. So instead, now we run these nuts, which are nylock nuts. They have that little nylon in there, which the bolt grabs and helps hold it on there. Just as a little bit of a safety precaution, help hold everything on tight, make sure nothing's coming loose that you know, we can't get to. We also have these plates that we put on here just to help hold those top and bottom nuts on, make sure they're tight. They slide in there. And then bolts in there to help hold them tight. Help hold the girdle and everything on. Put bolts down through and up through. This comes off. Alright, so got this together. Now having this on a forklift, putting one side together completely makes it weigh down a lot. So we're going to get the other side put together and matched up to this side. We'll drop the whole thing down onto the ground, get the hubs put on the spindles. I'll show you guys that process. And then we're waiting on a couple of parts and bolts, washers, to finish completely putting the corners together. So we'll only be able to get the hubs on for right now. And then this one, we'll need the tie rods yet, which we're waiting on bolts for those, and the 4-link bars, and then it's ready to go underneath the truck. Let me show you the other one I did earlier. So this is how we get them prepped and ready to go on the trucks when we build them new. I do have to put the other 4-link bars up top. I pulled those off earlier. We just do this so we can literally open up this door here. We do it like this so we can open the door and just bring the truck in, set it right between the two. 4-link bars will be right there on the cradle. They can mount right up to it. And then we'll put the shocks on and they'll be pretty sturdy at that point. So something quick before I forget, we have such high tolerances or small tolerances with all of this stuff. When we put all of these nuts on here, we have to make sure that their flats are facing in towards the hub. Otherwise, when we go to put the hub on, it'll grab one of the edges and it won't allow the hub to slide on the whole way. It's something that it's kind of a pain. We forget about sometimes, and if you don't remember, then you end up having to take the whole hub back off, which kind of sucks. But that's just part of some of the things in high pressure situations while we're thrashing to get the trucks back together. Stuff like this gets forgotten, and that's why you got to be on top of your game and make sure you know what you're doing. Not allow that to happen. So we got the hubs on. Sometimes the hub, there's a lot of space back here. Normally you want this gap to be even less than this plate here or my finger. I mean, very minimal. And sometimes the bearings get jammed up a little bit on the spindles, so we just take a chisel or a punch around here, just kind of help that bearing on some, slide on the rest. All right, well, that's really all we can do today. I'm gonna get the planetary assembly, the housing in there and the spindle nut on just to hold the hub on so I can get the transport tires on. I would go over that, however, I'm waiting on some new spindle nuts to show up, something to try out, and when we get those, that's gonna have to come back off anyway, and then we'll do a full in-depth video on putting the actual planetary gears together, the washers, spindle nuts, covers, and then getting the transport tires on and just buttoning the corners up.